Namaste, this is Santa Auntie. In this video, we are going to review the intro to speaking in past tense in Hindi. We're going to review what you learned in class about verbs as well as subject pronouns. There are two types of verbs, transitive and intransitive. Transitive verbs have a direct object, and intransitive verbs do not have a direct object. Let's review what a direct object is. A direct object is the person or thing that receives the action. The action of a sentence is the verb. So we're talking about the person or thing that's receiving whatever the verb is doing. Let's look at an example. He eats laddus. What's the action? Eats. What is receiving the action? Laddus. So what's the direct object? Laddus. Let's look at another one. They watched a movie. What's the action? Watched. What is receiving the action? Movie. So what's the direct object? Movie. The action moves from the subject through the verb to the direct object. That's how it works when you have a direct object. Let's review that again. The action, in this case, the action is eats. So the action starts with the subject of the sentence, he. It goes through the verb to the direct object. And remember, right now we are talking about transitive verbs. So do you see how the action transits from the subject through the verb to the direct object? Now let's review what the subject of a sentence is. You probably already know this, but let's just do a quick review. The subject of a sentence is the person or thing the sentence is about. So in the previous sentence, we had he eats laddus. So he is the subject of the sentence because he is the person that the sentence is about. Take a look at this sentence. What's the direct object? We saw a lion. What's the direct object? Lion. If we got rid of lion, would the sentence make sense? It would be we saw a. Would the sentence make sense? No. Look at this sentence. He eats laddus. What's the direct object? Laddus. If we remove laddus from the sentence, does the sentence make sense? He eats? No. Transitive verbs do not make sense without a direct object. So in any sentence with a transitive verb, the sentence will not make sense if it doesn't have a direct object. Now let's talk about intransitive verbs. These are verbs that do not need a direct object. Here's an example. The boy cried. What's the action? Cried. Is there anything to receive the action? Is there a direct object? No. Let's do another one. He slipped on the floor. What's the action? Slipped. Is there anything to receive the action? Is there a direct object? No. Now you might be thinking, wait a second, isn't floor the direct object? But actually it's not. The floor tells us where he slipped, not what he slipped. So it's not an object that's receiving the action of slipping. Here's another one. He coughed a lot. What's the action? Coughed. Is there any object to receive the action of coughing? No. So in these sentences, there is no direct object. The action is not passed on to anything, and therefore these are intransitive verbs. He slipped on the floor. There's no direct object. The boy cried. No direct object. He coughed a lot. No direct object. So how do we decide if a verb is transitive or intransitive? We have to ask two questions. Is there a who? And is there a what? If you answered yes to both questions, then the verb is transitive. Okay, but this is a Hindi class. Why does it matter whether a verb is transitive or intransitive? The reason it matters is because how to use the verb in Hindi depends on it. How to use a verb in Hindi will change whether a verb is transitive or intransitive. Let's take a look at that more closely now. Now that you understand the grammar behind it, let's talk about how to apply this in Hindi. First, do you remember these subject pronouns that we've been practicing for many months? I is मैं, you is आप, he is वो, she is वो, we is हम, and they is वो. So you should know these by now. Well, for transitive verbs in past tense, these are going to change to मैंने. Instead of मैं for I, it becomes मैंने. In you becomes आपने. So instead of आप, it became आपने. He and she were वो, but now they became उसने. We was हम, and now it became हमने. They was also वो, and now it became उन्होंने. But here's the thing. Not all verbs are going to get these new subject pronouns. Only transitive verbs do. Intransitive verbs are going to get the subject pronouns that you've already learned and are already very, very familiar with. These, मैं, आप, वो, hum, and वो. Let's look at an example. She went to school yesterday. What's the action? Went. Is there a who? Yes, it's she. Is there a what? Is there a direct object receiving the action of went? No. There is a where. There's a where she went to school, but that's not a what. So is there a direct object? No. So is this transitive or intransitive? Intransitive. So will the subject pronoun be वो or उसने? वो. Let's look at the other one. She sang songs at the party yesterday. What's the action? Sang. Is there a who? Yes, it's she. Is there a what? Yes, songs. She sang songs. So is there a direct object? Does the verb pass on to something? Yes, to songs. So is this transitive or intransitive? Transitive. So will the subject pronoun be वो or उसने? Usne. So do you see the difference? Both of these are she sentences, but one is intransitive and the other is transitive, and the word for she changed accordingly. In the first sentence, the word for she was वो, and in the second sentence, the word for she is उसने. So we are going to practice this a lot more in class, but it'll help if you review this video and make sure that you understand it. For now, धन्यवाद for joining me. Keep practicing, and I'll see you in class.